It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. Today, we welcome one of the leading voices in the sports media landscape. She worked for 3 years at a local radio station in Miami, Florida, before she joined Fox Sports in 2016. She's worked in a number of roles for some shows on the network, including Skip and Shannon Undisputed and The Herd with Colin Cowherd, both which air on Fox Sports 1. An avid sports fan, most recently, she became the host of her own Saturday program on Fox Sports Radio. It's Joy Taylor. She joins this live stream of Listen In with KNN right now. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson. It's Listen In with KNN, the sports sound of the district. We bring you the biggest guests, great analysis, and the hottest sports stories in the nation's capital and beyond. And we bring it to you live. Welcome to this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN. Here's your host, Kelsey Nicole Nelson.
All right. Hello, everyone, and happy Monday, and welcome into another new live edition of Listen In with KNN Sports Talk radio show and podcast presented right here by Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. I am more than ecstatic for today's show. I usually know we come to you all Thursdays and Saturdays, but today we're bringing you all a special Monday edition with a very special guest joining me live all the way from the West Coast. So we appreciate her time joining us here on the East Coast is none other than Joy Taylor. You guys watch her on TV, co-host of The Herd on FS1, also host of the new Joy Taylor Show on Fox Sports Radio. So be sure to check that out. And also a host for the Thursday Night Football Scouts feed on NFL Prime. So basically, Joy is everywhere that you want to be. We're going to talk about football, the NBA news, and of course, just her journey through broadcasting and just what a weekend it was in football. So many crazy storylines. We saw some top teams fall. We had a 9 overtime game in college football. Like, you just can't make this stuff up. So again, I think she's coming at the perfect time when there's just so many sports storylines. Without further ado, please help me welcome none other than the gorgeous, the beautiful Miss Joy Taylor to the show. Joy, how are you today?
Oh, that was an intro. I like that. Thank you so much for having me on.
My pleasure. I had to do you justice, Joy. You know, many people love you, we adore you, and we've just enjoyed your journey. So I like to do a wellness check first with my guest. Joy, how are you feeling? How are you doing? I know it's raining in LA, so apologies for that. It's gloomy here too, if that makes you feel any better. But you've been busy, Joy, with so much that you're juggling and handling.
Yeah, everything is good. I like to be busy. It's a blessing to be busy. So I'm not complaining about that at all. It's when it rains in LA, it's like a big deal because it never rains in Southern California.
I was singing the song in my head, Joy.
Yeah, the song is true. It never rains here. So when it rains here, we're like, what do we do? Do we have to bring stuff inside? I literally just went out onto my balcony and had to switch my table around because it was holding all this water, which I would never know because it never rains. So yeah, it's that's why my hair is expanding as we speak because it's like the one humid day of the year here. But no, everything is good. We're in the middle of the thick of football season. Yes. And October is the best month. We have the World Series starting. NBA is back. College football is in the middle of their season. The NFL is starting to kind of shape up. We're starting to see what teams are real contenders and who are pretty soon going to be out of it. I mean, the trade deadline is next week.
Approaching.
So we are in the middle of it, and there's a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, right now for sports fans, this is like our mecca. Like October is the month, don't bother us because everything is going on, right? That we're trying to catch up for. Because also college basketball, hard to believe, also just like right around the corner. So again, this is our happy moment, our happy time. So fellas, women, anybody that's watching sports right now, look, give them their time, give them their their space. Give them
We need our
peace.
space. We're busy.
We need our space. We're kind of busy right now, but Joy, I mean, you're doing just so much. And I'll tell you, fun fact, Joy. So I actually had met you a little while ago, even though this is our first time meeting face to face. Your dance party, because I was in grad school at Georgetown. I got to send a video in for your Friday dance parties that you would do. So much fun. You still live for those, Joy.
Amazing. I know. I bring them back, and then I'm like, it's the return, and then I get busy and forget. Like it'll be Friday, like halfway through the show, and I'll be like, crap, I didn't get any of the dance party started. So I should bring it back this week for Halloween.
Yes, we need it. We need it because so much is going on. Like you said, Halloween is right around the corner. Speaking of which, Joy, are you dressing up this year?
Oh yes, girl. I have 5 costumes. Halloween is my season. I love Halloween. It's so fun. So I don't take myself too seriously. So I always like to have a couple like funny costumes, and then we gotta get the sexy costumes in too. But yeah, I have 5. I have one for Thursday night football, one for the herd, one for Friday night, one for my Saturday morning show, one for Saturday night. So we've got a whole lineup coming to the gram.
So basically tune in because you guys are going to see all 5 of Joy Taylor's wonderful outfits that she'll be debuting and rocking, and talking about just your journey into sports. Because we're going to talk football because so much happening around it. But I want to talk about you first, Joy, and how you got to where you are today. So Pittsburgh native, and talking about Pittsburgh, I'm curious to hear what you're thinking of these rumors that Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin might be among the front runners for a vacant job at the University of Southern California. We've gotten so used to seeing him in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
A fixture. What did you think when you first heard these rumors?
Well, I heard them today. Carson Palmer was on the Dan Patrick show and kind of floated that he's so he didn't really say that Mike Tomlin was interested or that anyone had reached out. All he said was Mike Tomlin, USC, and everyone kind of went crazy. He just said that he'd be someone that USC would be interested in. It's like, okay, well, some of us would be interested in a lot of things, but is that person interested in us? So
right. Is it coming back to us?
Right. Is this love reciprocated? I don't know that I see Mike Tomlin leaving the Steelers. I think it sounds good. Of course, the Steelers are struggling right now. They're down bad, and
I wasn't going to bring it up, Joy, because I know that's your team.
Yeah, it's rough. It's been rough, but I mean, it's the end of an era. It's the end of the Ben Roethlisberger era in Pittsburgh, and we're seeing it, and it's kind of sad. And they haven't really made a plan for the future, and so there's consequences to that. And I don't think that now. Look, Mike Tomlin has been kind of mentioned as somebody that could move for the last month or so because they kind of go year to year with his contract. But the Steelers have had 3 head coaches in the history of the franchise. So they're not a team that moves on from head coaches. And Mike Tomlin would get a job immediately, wherever he wanted. Whatever vacant job was available, he would be the number 1 option for that and would be able to dictate his terms as such. So I don't see him leaving Pittsburgh unless he wanted to leave Pittsburgh. Yeah. But the talks about Mike Tomlin are coming from mostly places of people just floating the idea that he might be available. Not that Mike Tomlin is unhappy, not that the Steelers are unhappy. Yeah. So I don't see Mike Tomlin leaving Pittsburgh. Stranger things have happened. It's 2021, so never say never. But I don't think that will be the case. What actually is a more likely outcome, I believe, is that Aaron Rodgers ends up in Pittsburgh. Now, part of me is speaking that into existence, but I do not believe that Aaron Rodgers is going to be in Green Bay next year. I think he's bought in for this year. It's the last dance mentality in Green Bay, and there's been a lot of conversation coming directly from Aaron Rodgers about how much he appreciates Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin and how the Steelers are run and all these little Easter eggs. So I think that's actually a more likely outcome than Tomlin leaving. But again, everything is on the table.
Exactly. So many things that we'll have to keep an eye on, but Aaron Rodgers rocking that gold and black. I think that would be so interesting. Like you said, we're looking at the future of Pittsburgh. And Big Ben, we appreciate your time, but look, things have to keep moving, have to keep rolling. And you took a guy from us here in Washington, who many of us were hoping would have a second start, but I just don't believe he's the quarterback of the future. And of course, that's Dwayne Haskins. I think you are just looking towards that bright future, but so many things to keep an eye on. But look, it sounds like Joy saying Pittsburgh fans, don't fret just yet. All right. We still have Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. And again, these are rumors. Not all rumors are true. Joy, talking about you growing up in Pittsburgh, let's touch on that. And just just growing up your childhood there. Of course, we all know and love your brother as well. So just talk about what it was like growing up in Pittsburgh and what Pittsburgh means to you today.
I love Pittsburgh. I mean, I still have a lot of family there. My sister still lives there with my 5 nieces and her husband and my great niece. And I have lots of cousins and aunts and uncles, and everyone is still there. So I still try to make it back to Pittsburgh a couple of times a year. And, it's a place that I will always have love for growing up, born and raised there. And Pittsburgh is just one of those places that is very down to earth. There's a lot of real ones there. And, wherever you go in life, I always notice that when I say I'm from Pittsburgh, people kind of respond a little differently. Like, they don't know. They think that, I'm from LA, or like, not that there's anything wrong with being from LA, of course. But Pittsburgh carries a certain kind of, toughness and energy and respect when you come from Pittsburgh, when you've been born and raised in Pittsburgh. And of course, that's where I get my sports roots from, because everyone I know in the city of Pittsburgh is a sports fan to some capacity, man or woman. Right. And I was actually raised by crazed female sports fans. So I never really grew up with the notion that girls aren't supposed to be into sports, or, girls aren't good sports fans. I mean, my aunts and my grandmother were like the Golden Girls and all lived together, and like whatever's going on during the day is fine. But when the game's on, turn that off, turn the game on. Let's all sit down and watch. And, if they lost, whoever it was, whatever team it was in Pittsburgh, they're going to be in a bad mood. So it was a great place to grow up. I have a lot of respect for the organizations there, for the city there, the people there, and I love Pittsburgh.
Yeah, look, many of us do. Maybe not the people in Baltimore, because that rivalry.
Cleveland, yeah.
But again, just a great sports city. And like you, I feel like your background's like mine, where look, females love sports. And I think it's sad, Joy, that even in 2021, there's some guys who still can't get with the program, that many of us can talk sports just as well with them. And sometimes even better, actually many times even better, Joy, than them. But like you said, it's a city where people love their sports. They're very passionate about their sports fans. And that's why many eyes will be on who the future quarterback will be of that Pittsburgh Steelers franchise. And continuing on, you go from Pittsburgh. Let's talk about Barry University, because something that you just did now, you have a scholarship for Department of Communication majors at Barry University. First off, congratulations, Joy, for that. It has to be like the best feeling in the world when you graduate from a school and then you're able to give back to the future broadcasters and future communicators, Joy, of the world. So let's talk about Barry University and kind of how you had your radio show there. I mean, you did so much, and then now you're helping the future, Joy, come up and hopefully be the next you, and so on.
Yeah, I love Barry University and the city of Miami. I say I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, but I became a woman in Miami. So I lived in Miami for 10 years before moving to Los Angeles, and obviously went to Barry University. I started my career in Miami. I have a lot of family in Miami. Both my brothers and my mom live down there. Wow. And, it's just a place that I really love. It's like my second home. A lot of people actually think that I'm from Miami because I talk about it so much. But Barry University was a great place for me to get my education and get my start in the business. I was actually talking last night about how I started in the business and what, if my path was traditional. And I actually was like, it's not actually very traditional, because Barry's in a top 20 market and in media. And generally, if you go to a smaller school, if there's anything wrong with that, of course, Barry's a small school, but a small market school, you kind of establish yourself there, and then you try to move to a bigger market, where I was already in a big market and had made all my connections and done my internships in that city, and was blessed enough to get my first job in Miami, which is a big market and a great place to start.
Right.
So Barry really prepared me though for the future. It's actually a place that I don't, everyone like loves their school and stuff, but
of course,
I really felt prepared for the workplace when I left Barry, not just with, having an education, but there was being a broadcast journalism major, I got to learn everything that goes into doing that job and every aspect of doing that job. So they really made an emphasis to have us have experience in everything, in writing, in producing, in editing, in shooting, in show rundowns, in guest booking, in running, the studio, in the room, doing everything. So you really left there with at least a base knowledge of not only every job that's available in the business, but a hands-on, literal hands-on experience of what and how to do it. So it was very important to all of our professors there that we each leave there with an education that was real and authentic to the business. So everyone I know that went there and studied that has had success in that space and had a really great base to start their career because of their experience there. So it was always important. It's very important to me to, help lead the charge for diversity in our business, not just on camera, but behind the scenes.
Right.
And it's very important to me to help the next generation of broadcasters. And so it was a special thing for me to be able to give back to the university and help, a student and obviously future students with their education there, because I also got that help. I applied for lots of scholarships when I was at Barry to help, get through school. As many of us do. So, it's every little bit helps. And I feel very grateful to be able to get back.
Yeah, I can just see it in your face. Like you said, just, it's kind of like when life goes full circle, right? You know what it took and what you had to do at Barry and how they helped prepare you. And now you're making sure that continues for so many others. So once again, congratulations on that. Excited to see this year's scholarship recipients and just this continue. And you touched on something during college. I hope everybody is kind of doing everything and that your college is preparing you to do everything. Because when you're trying to make it in this industry, you have to kind of we all started somewhere, right? I think sometimes people see us story and think, oh, you just get on camera and, oh, you're just going to make it snap. And no, right? You have so much practice that you're doing in college, and college is the time to kind of get that out, get the kinks out, cover your university's college programs, local high school teams, and then continue to work your way up. So I'm so glad that you touched on that. And I hope every young person listening to this interview takes that in. And then you touched on your love for Miami. So we know you spent 5 years in Miami radio. And let's talk about 790 AM, The Ticket, right? I know this station's top rated morning show program, right? Zaslow and Joy Show. Let's just talk about Miami radio and what the Miami fans, the Miami fan base, how they kind of help propel you on your career and how they just supported you, Joy, in your journey to being where you are today.
Yeah, Miami is just an incredible place to work, and especially in our business, in the sports media business. So many legends have worked there and started their careers there and propelled from that market into so many other ventures and spaces in the business. And being able to start in Miami at 790 was I started at 560 interning, and then my first part-time job there, and then eventually moved to 790 full-time. But yeah, I mean, I love Miami. I love the people of Miami, the fans of Miami, even though sometimes we beef about Tua, because I gotta keep it real about what's going on.
Oh, Joy,
I still got love for you. I had me salty for a second, but no, I mean, it's actually a really incredible fan base, very loyal. And especially with the Dolphins, have been through a lot over the past couple decades. And, we had our moments. Like, listen, we had LeBron, we had the Heat, like we're good. We got some championships in there. But no, it was a really great place to start my career. And the Miami fans have been incredibly supportive of me. And even, not being in Miami for almost 6 years now, still really supportive and always show love for me and Zaslow. And that makes me feel good that we had an impact, that our show really had an impact on people. And that's really, working with Zaslow and doing that show really put me in a space where I really felt fully confident as a broadcaster. And we all have that moment in our career where we get into a space where we're like, okay, now I really feel like I found my groove and I have the confidence, I've had the reps, and I feel like I've found my voice.
Finding your voice,
everyone in this business has that moment. Mm-hmm. And it's through progression. It takes time, takes reps, takes mistakes. But when you find it, it's really a liberating feeling, because you feel totally confident and the nerves are gone. And then you know what you're capable of. And that show really gave me that confidence. So I always have love for Miami and being able to start my career there.
I love that. We all love Miami, Joy, but like you said, just a special place. Like you said, finding your voice and being comfortable with your voice, like you said, and being able to speak your mind and opinions and not care about the naysayers and haters that are coming your way. I think once you find that, people are going to be attracted to you, right? There's something about a confidence in a broadcaster, something that's not afraid to say anything that's, outlandish or wrong, because that's their thoughts, that's their opinions. And it's like, no more being Miss Nice Girl or Mr. Nice Guy. It's just, this is what I think, this is what I feel. And I've been in the city, so it's great to see that you've become like my adopted daughter, we'll say, because they still love you. Let's go to a question that we have from a viewer. Joy, what has been the most gratifying moment of your career to date? I love that question.
I would say it actually was in Miami right before the pandemic, doing the Super Bowl in Miami at the beginning of 2020 in February. Yeah. Because it was a very full circle moment for my career, being able to come back to Miami where I started my career. Colin and I did the show from South Beach on these incredible sets that Fox had built in, which was basically like a little Fox town right on South Beach around 5th. So it was really incredible to be able to be down there to do those shows leading up to the Super Bowl. Fox had the Super Bowl, of course. So it was a big moment for me, being able to have my brother come down, do the show with us, do the podcast, and, just be able to connect again with the fans and a lot of the people that I started my career with in Miami. And it was just an incredible week and an incredible experience. And then before I went, I really made a mental decision to really absorb it and be in the moment. Because sometimes when we have these big assignments or these big events to cover, and we know there's going to be a lot of stuff going on logistically, and we're in another city, and it's like a lot going on doing live shows that are on remote, especially nationally broadcasted ones that are leading up to the Super Bowl. It can get a little hectic and you kind of just buzz through it. But I really wanted to take the time to be in the moment and enjoy all of it, enjoy every second of it. And it was a really incredible experience.
Yeah, it just sounds gratifying. Like you said, and being in the moment, like you said, sometimes we get so focused on what we need to do, but actually experiencing everything that goes on around Super Bowl and all those moments. And if you've been to Super Bowl, it's an experience unlike any other. I tell people that all the time. If you get a chance to go to Super Bowl, it's truly an out of this world experience, because there's so much going on. You're leading up to this incredible game that so many people are going to be tuning in, and it's a life-changing game for so many players, with the final outcome of that game, Joy. But again, it's great to see how Miami was such just a prolific moment in your career, and just continuing with your career, Joy. Also, of course, we also love watching you as a moderator on Undisputed with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. And then, of course, since you said joining the herd with Colin Cowherd, and Joy, you kill it every single day, every single weekday, bringing your takes and opinions and just owning it. And then also now, most recently, the Joy Taylor Show. Let's talk about that launch and what it meant for you now to be a Black woman sports talk radio show with Fox Sports Radio, having your voice. And I know something that you've also been committed to, Joy, is bringing more female voices to the table. And to our point before, diversifying the voices that we're hearing in sports talk radio.
It's been really huge for me. I wasn't sure what the reaction to the announcement of the show was going to be, but it really got a lot of love, and I really appreciated that. It was a big moment for me, obviously, being able to get a national show on, Fox Sports Radio, which is a national network, and being able to host it by myself as well was important to me, because I wanted to be able to stand on my own. It's great, obviously, to have a co-host, and it's definitely can lead to great conversations and interactions. And I had an amazing time, obviously, with doing the show with Zaslow for years. But I really wanted to be able to do the show by myself and showcase what I was capable of. And they were confident enough in me at Fox Sports Radio to give me that opportunity, which I'm very grateful for. Yeah. And as I mentioned, obviously it's very important to me to give back and, help other people along, and to just give a platform to people that I think are doing great work in the business. And obviously there are a lot of women in the business who don't always get the opportunity to give just their opinion, just their thoughts. Right. And that's what I'm doing on the show. So it's very important to me to always have women on the show as guests. And so, so we always have women on the show. And I think I'm hoping that we're introducing some of amazing women in the business to new audiences as well that, otherwise wouldn't know of their work. And so that's important to me. And obviously also doing an entertaining and informative show. And it's been great. And, doing the show with Colin has been huge for me. Colin's incredible to work with. He's been a huge supporter of mine, as are Skip and Shannon. They've all been great for me in my career and my growth and supporting me. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, it's just hearing that, like you said, helping to amplify female voices, diversifying female voices. And I think overall that just helps the sports media landscape, because sports are so diverse. And so it's making sure that these voices come from different backgrounds, but then also having your colleagues support you in that. I feel like there's no greater feeling, Joy. So again, congrats on that. And of course, those of us that followed you from your Maybe I'm Crazy podcast, just launching that now to the radio show aspect. What do you think you took from your podcast and the different elements of your podcasting that you bring into your radio show today, Joy?
Well, I think the podcast really was great for me, especially when I started on Undisputed, to be able to keep having a voice and keeping that radio, talking muscle strong, because obviously the moderator position, while has huge visibility, is limited in, your opportunity to give your opinion and to get involved in the conversation. So it was always important to me to keep that muscle strong, and the podcast really helped me with that. And it was also just really had a great loyal following, and people were really responsive to what, me and Brandon were doing on the podcast, which was great. And we had an amazing time. And also, we had a diverse group of people working on the podcast as well. And they've all, gone on to do great things in the business as well, because they're all super talented. And that's always great to work with, creative, fun people when you're working on something like that. So the podcast was great. And, there's still some retooling might happen with it on hiatus right now. But no, it was really good for me to keep, that opinion space strong, especially when I was working on Undisputed. Yeah. And then, starting on the Herd. So it was always really helpful for me in that, and also just a really good time.
Yeah, definitely a good time. Brandon's awesome. You were awesome, Joy. Like you said, just lots of joy, lots of fun, and lots of great sports talk. I'm going to go to another question, Joy, from one of our live listeners. This is from Marquez Smith. What advice would you give to people that are doing the same thing that you did in college and where you are at now? So people asking for advice, Joy, just overall, what advice would you give?
Well, to kids that are in college, and I only say kids because I'm old, not because you're a kid. To young people who are in college, who are studying broadcasting. Well, two pieces of advice. One, I would say the best piece of advice that I can give you is when you're starting in the business, to know what it is you want to do. Now, that's kind of difficult because all of us find that path at a different point in life. But if you really focus and really, kind of remove the dream aspect, the fantasy aspect, we all have these illusions. We're all going to be billionaires and, Ferraris, and what is it that you want to do? And that's great. Listen, we're that's still a goal. But what is it that you want to do every day that's really going to make you happy? That's really going to make you want to go to work and do great work? And it's very cliche, but you're not going to make any money when you start in the business anyway. So don't even worry about the money part of it, because it's going to be a while. And that's just the reality of the situation. So you want to make decisions that's going to lead you to the money and lead you to something that you're going to be great at, which will bring you money. So you need to really know what it is you want to do. Really have a goal, because a lot of people say they want to be successful, but they don't know what they want to be successful at. Mm-hmm. So you're not really building anything.
Right.
You
need that plan.
Staying busy. Mm-hmm. Don't mistake activity for achievement. John Wooden. It's very important to be busy at something that is going to help you reach your goal. And so you really need to sit with yourself, sit with your advisors, sit with your mentors, sit with your professors, sit with your family, whoever it is you get really sound advice from, and talk about what it is that you want to do. And it's okay if what you want to do doesn't exist yet, but you have to know what it is, because the next step is you're going to start networking, and you're going to start doing internships, and you're going to start meeting people and applying for jobs. And if you don't know what you want to do, no one can help you, because well, what do I tell? There's so many jobs. Do you want to be a sideline reporter in college football?
Right.
Do you want to do you want to be an NBA beat writer? Do you want to do, films? Do you want to do documentaries? Do you want to be a debate show host? Do you want to be a radio host? There's so many jobs, and they all have different paths, And you don't all have
Right.
to do a linear, journey there, but you do have to know where you're trying to go. And that's very specifically in this business, because you'll meet people and be like, hey, yeah, like I want to do this. Great.
Yeah.
I know somebody who's actually hiring for that. Let me send them your resume. Or I know someone who's looking for someone who wants to start in that path. Let me send you over here. And, it's very important to network in the business as well. So knowing what you want to do is very important. And then the second piece of advice I would give to young people is to take advantage of social media, because it's free. So
Yes.
Twitter and YouTube and live streams and Instagram Live and Instagram and Snapchat and like all of these different TikTok, all of these different platforms are free. And if you put the energy and time in to really put good content on there that sports fans or news or culture or pop culture, whatever it is that you want to do, if you're putting the time in to build your reputation in that space, it's very helpful. Employers do pay attention to your social media. You don't have to have 1 million followers, but if they see that you're working on something, you can get jobs off of Twitter, just being good at Twitter. Like it happens all the time. So if you like legitimate jobs. So if you're really pouring yourself into what it is you're passionate about and branding yourself in that space, it's free and people pay attention to it, and you can definitely get work off of social media. So don't be shy. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be worried about putting something up that's corny. It doesn't matter. Just the reps are important. It takes a long time to be completely fluid. When I first got out of college, I was like, I am ready to be Oprah. Here I am.
We all, Joy.
Here I am, world. And I was not ready. I was not. There is no way I could do what I'm doing now. When I first graduated from college, I would be a disaster. So you want to be prepared for the opportunity when it comes to you, and getting free reps on social media and building your brand in that space is, I mean, it's invaluable. We didn't have that coming out of school. We didn't have that coming out of school, but we didn't. Like, social media was not as big as it is now. And it's not paid. It was not paid attention to the way that it is now. So that whole side of it is free. And then quickly, to anyone else who is just in this space, just remember to help others along.
Yes.
Because we all got help. We all had someone look out for us. We all had a kingmaker. We all had somebody give us a chance. So, be aware that that's your responsibility in this very difficult show business space, because it's really show business at the end of the day, which it just doesn't feel like it, because we, you could, go get a degree in it, but it's show business. So we all have to help each other and look out for each other, and be kind to each other. And, sometimes we can all get lost in it, because it's a very stressful business and it's very competitive and can get crazy, but helping each other out and looking out for each other is very important.
It's so important. And you've been a shining example of that, Joy. Each one teach one, reach back and give back. So important, because while you're climbing up, it's important to help others climb up with you along the way, because look, you want to be successful, but you want others around you as well being successful. And that's how we feed and give back to the industry. Now, Joy, I want to talk football, but we're getting so many great questions for you. So I'm going to take a few more live questions, and then we're going to get into the football portion of this show. So this one from Carlos James, a loyal viewer of this show. I'd like to know, who in the business would Joy say gave her the most intense sports debate?
That's a good question. I don't know. That's a good question. I gotta think about that. I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for you.
No, you're gonna keep watching.
That's a good question, because I've talked to so many people. But I don't generally debate with a lot of people. So we had I guess with sports, so we're always kind of debating a little something. I'll have to think about that one. I'll have to get back to you. I'm sorry, I don't have. That's a really good question. I've never had that question before.
See, Carlos, keep watching. We're gonna get that answer.
You stumped me.
Keep thinking about it. We'll do one more from the fans. When do you think you'll be content with your career? I think that just is a great follow-up from our conversation before, Joy.
Well, I think, I guess not to get too philosophical, but I think it's important. I've been trying to actively work on being content at each step, starting with what I was talking about earlier with the Miami Super Bowl and just kind of being in the moment, because I am a very, very much a planner and look forward to, and what's the next step and what are we working on next and what's, what are we growing towards? How do we get to the goal? And there has been moments where I've just kind of breezed through things. And now I'm looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have enjoyed that step a little more. I wish I would have like leaned into that a little more when I was doing it. But I was so focused on getting to here that, I didn't appreciate it as much as I could have. And so being content, I think, is important because it does eliminate a great pillar of stress when you say, okay, here's where I am now. I worked for this. There was a time in my career where I was praying to be where I am now, that I was working towards being where I am now. So let me appreciate this step while planning for the next step. But in a macro sense, when I will be content with my career, I guess I will be like in the cruise control version of my career, is when I am able to provide a platform for other people to put out their content. So that is like the ultimate goal for me, beyond having my own show, beyond, growing into, an empire phase. I want to be able to provide a platform for other people and provide content opportunities for other people. So once I'm past the point of, stabilizing my space in the business, that is the step that when that's up and rolling, I'll be content.
Then you'll be content with it. I think that's something, a lot of times I feel like, we're always building towards the next step. Sometimes we don't just live in that moment, Joy, and enjoy what we're doing and what we have. And I think that is something that all of us need to reflect on. Again, you always want to be building, but also enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, enjoy.
Have some gratitude for what you're dealing with right now. I think last year was a great learning opportunity for all of us. It certainly was for me. That we're going so fast and we're moving so fast and everything's happening and we've got this going on and this trip and this panel and then everything was like, stop. It was literally like Mother Earth was like, all right, we're going to take a break. We're going to sit down for a second.
Exactly. Have a seat.
And then, and it really made me appreciate like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to bail on this trip next time it comes up, and I'm not going to, take this for granted. And, I tried to really focus on that. And it's, having gratitude, especially in a crazy time that we've been living in really for the last 2 years now, has been helpful for me to really feel grounded.
Yeah, like you said. And I think right now it's just about giving grace, like you said, because I think COVID did force us to slow down and really just go, all right. Yeah. So and then also we've had to find new ways to be innovative and reinvent ourselves. So like you said, we were getting a lot of questions for you, Joy, about podcasting. Podcasts, I feel like, picked up over the pandemic. We see the live stream shows picking up over the pandemic. And to your point, we're utilizing social media, I think, even more. I mean, we were watching The Last Dance together during the pandemic. And even
and live tweeting it like it was live. Like we didn't know exactly what was about to happen.
Exactly. We all connected through that moment. And at this point, from Andy Burroughs, have fan podcasts changed the way that we look at sports media? I mean, you talk about the Dolphins and their fans, and I think every team now, Joy, has fan podcasts that cover that team, right? So like now the way we look at sports media, it's not just coming from journalists, right? Content creators are so many different people out there, and we're all analyzing the game differently, but people are looking for content to consume. And that's why any team out there has a different type of fan podcast out there where fans are saying, look, we know this team, we love this team, and now we're going to analyze this team, and other fans are feeding on to that. So how do you think fan podcasts have changed the way that we're consuming sports media?
I think it's very influential. I think a lot of organizations have to pay attention to so many different forms of, I guess, criticism and praise input on what it is that they're doing. And I think the fans deserve to have a voice. I mean, they're the ones who are, buying season tickets. They're the ones buying merch. They're the ones supporting the team, whether they're up or down. So I think fan podcasts are great, and they have really strong followings too, because other fans, they get to know each other, and it becomes this network of fans for different teams. And because it's not the, polished, network produced type of material, it's very authentic and raw. And that's relatable too, because those are the conversations you're having at your local sports bar, with other people that watch the sport or watch that team. So yeah, I think fan podcasts are great. And I think, now organizations really have to pay attention to them. And they're also actually very useful for national shows, because I don't know the pulse of every single, individual sport fan, from each team, like what the energy they have towards certain decisions and things like that. Like, we can't get on Reddit boards and figure out, if Eagles fans are liking Jalen Hurts or not, or how people really feel about Justin Fields, or how they feel about this trade or this move, or, so fan podcasts and fan forums like that are really useful for the national host as well, to just kind of get an authentic pulse on what the fans of those teams are feeling.
Yeah, like you said, you get that realness, that rawness from the fans directly. And, they don't have to apologize for anything that they say. They're just going to keep it real. And a lot of times we need to hear that to exactly talk about how a fan base is feeling about certain players on teams or the personnel. We're dealing a lot with that right now in Washington, the Washington Fan Podcast. Joy, I feel a lot of way about our Washington football team, which we're going to briefly touch on in this show. But and so many great questions. Keep your questions coming in, you all. But look, I'm trying to maximize the time with Joy. So before we get into football talk, I also want to talk about her Joy Taylor Foundation mission to serve homeless survivors of domestic violence and promote education and youth empowerment in the communities of LA, Miami, Pittsburgh, and NYC. Again, Joy, you're doing so many great things. Congrats on the launch of your foundation. I know your brother has one as well. But, what does it mean now to have your own foundation, just giving back to important causes that are near and dear to your heart?
It's really special. I've been working on it for about a year now. We've been putting it together. I'm very passionate about giving back to the community, and was very involved in community causes in Miami, and have, started to establish a footprint in Los Angeles with that as well. So it's always been in my system to give back and, use my platform to lift other organizations and help wherever I can. But I wanted to start a foundation just more so to just organize the efforts that I have going on. I'm a domestic violence survivor, and I work with an organization here in Los Angeles called Beauty to the Streets that does amazing work with the homeless population of Skid Row here in LA. I partnered with URI, Urban Resource Institute of New York City, which is the largest domestic violence shelter in the country. So I'm an ambassador for them as well. And of course, do a lot of work with my brother's foundation also in Miami, which has done incredible work through education and youth empowerment causes in South Florida. So I just it was more to establish an organized effort for all of the organizations that I work with, and to start putting together events and fundraisers for these organizations that I partner with and work with regularly. But it's really special to be able to give back and to use my platform to help other people, because that's really, like I said, what is the purpose of all of this, to have a voice, if not to use it to make change. So that's what the mission of it was. And I'm glad that we finally now have it up and running.
Yeah, positive change. Once again, congratulations, Joy, on getting that off the ground. And your hands are in everything, but doing a phenomenal job at keeping it all balanced. And Joy, now let's get into some football storylines. What a week 7 of football it was. I mean, I think just like anything that could happen, it seemed like it happened. So I'm going to run through these storylines, Joy. The first one, Titans and Chiefs. I'm just going to ask you straight out. Is it time to hit the panic button on the Kansas City Chiefs? We're seeing Patrick Mahomes. We're seeing everything's not coming as naturally and as easy. And Chiefs fans, they've been in paradise, Joy, for the last couple of seasons, right? Things were just good in Kansas City. And all of a sudden, they're starting to get exposed.
Yeah, it's time to hit the panic button for sure. They're not playing well. And it's okay. It's okay to say that. It's, no one has really been able to poke holes in what Kansas City has done over the past couple of years. Like you said, it's been paradise, but they're not playing well. And that performance against the Titans was abysmal. And, a lot of the criticism is kind of being pushed away from Patrick Mahomes because he's been so incredible, but the turnovers cannot be dismissed. They have an incredible amount of turnovers. We know what they're capable of, which is what the hesitation for a full-on, they're done type of statement. But it's trending that way. So they really need to get it together. Their defense has not been great either, which obviously has something to do with Patrick Mahomes and that offense. But all around, they've got a lot of issues. Now, don't take anything away from the Titans. I thought the Titans would take a little bit of a step back this year. Was wrong about that. I love Derrick Henry. He's maybe my favorite player in the league. He's incredible. Yeah. But he makes that offense go, as we know. But you got to give their defense credit as well. They're doing a tremendous job all around. And I think you have to talk about them as contenders. So it's not that it was, there's any shame in losing to the Titans, but you can't lose like that. And it's looking bleak. It's not over yet. I still have faith that they will get it together, clean up the turnovers, and Patrick Mahomes will stop pressing as much. But they definitely have some issues there. It's completely fair to say at this point, like they're struggling.
Yeah, Titans defense kept that Chiefs offense in check that game. So again, many of us are looking at it. What was a high-powered Kansas City offense and asking questions. And again, that defense, they just have to get better. You need some defense if you're going to want to make a long run this year for a chance at the title. Now let's talk about the next big game everyone's talking about, Ravens and Bengals. Many are calling this a statement win for the Cincinnati Bengals. Quite frankly, here in the DMV in Baltimore, they're used to just spanking the Bengals. Like, it's no competition. The Bengals are coming to town, Joy, but now look, they're not your same mama's Bengals anymore, right? The Bengals look good. Joe Burrow looks good. Jamar Chase. I mean, the Ravens secondary, it was embarrassing, Joy. So thoughts on that game?
Yeah, the Bengals are fierce now. Fierce, honey. Wow. No, I love Joe Burrow. I am a massive Joe Burrow fan. I was preaching to anyone that would listen, and no one did, that the Dolphins should offer whatever Cincinnati would ask for to move up in the draft and get Joe Burrow. Was right about that. It was not well received, but I think history will prove that I was right about that. Not that Cincinnati would have done it, but obviously he is proven to be the franchise quarterback, the future of the Cincinnati Bengals. And they're putting it all together. And it takes time. It takes a little bit to get things going, to build a culture. He was dealing with an injury last year. But Cincinnati is for real. I agree. It was a statement win. The Ravens were favored by 6.5. They'd won 5 straight leading up to this game, the Ravens over the Bengals. So yeah, they did own the Bengals and were expected to win convincingly over them. So for the Bengals to win, right. And so for the Bengals to win in the fashion that they did, I think you have to take them serious. I don't know if I'm putting them in the Super Bowl conversation yet, but they're top of the AFC. So you got to give them the respect that they've earned at this point in the season. And they've taken a massive step up. Joe Burrow looks great. Jamar Chase looks great.
Yes.
And they're putting it together. And that is a legitimate win that no one can poke holes in. Not just that they won in convincing fashion, but they're looking and playing with confidence, and they've arrived. So I love it. I think it's great. I think it's great when young quarterbacks start to have some success, especially when they're dealing with adversity, and he's doing it without a great offensive line. So that's truly what a franchise quarterback is and should do, is elevate the team where they're struggling and take advantage of the pieces and talent that they have around them. And that's exactly what Joe Burrow and the Bengals are doing.
Yeah, like you said, and look, the AFC North just got that much more interesting because we've got the Bengals going at it now. We're going to see what happens with the Browns, and then even your Steelers, Joy, we're still looking at them. You just don't know how it's going to play out, but just lots of great quarterback play. So again, congrats to the Cincinnati Bengals. Not easy to come into the bank and do what they did. The next game, we'll stay with another team in this area, the Packers and the Washington football team. Look, the Packers just got the job done. Aaron Rodgers, 3 touchdown passes. I don't think anyone was as surprised at this game, but look, Washington right now is in shambles. Joy, is there anything that the Washington football team can do to at least stay afloat in the NFC East? The Dallas Cowboys are just looking really good this year, Joy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not over in the NFC East for Washington. There's a lot of football left to play. The Cowboys look great. So there is that. The rest of, the Giants, I know they won this weekend, but no one's taking them seriously, or Philadelphia. No disrespect, but they just have so many injuries and so much. The Eagles are in a total rebuild. So it was always between Washington and Dallas to begin with. Now, I didn't like the strategy that the Washington football team had coming into the season at the quarterback position. I did not understand it. They were completely not aggressive in the offseason. Ryan Fitzpatrick is not a franchise quarterback. He was on his 9th team now. That's not a franchise quarterback. That's not the answer. They weren't a good enough roster for him to take them anywhere. He's not a Super Bowl winning caliber quarterback. And that's not a personal attack on Ryan Fitzpatrick. We all love Ryan Fitzpatrick. But that's what his career has shown, and that's what it is. So for him to be the starting quarterback, and Taylor Heineke, who I think has some potential, but is clearly trying to put it together and making some decisions that are just still not quite adding up on the field. It's just, I didn't like how they came in completely non-aggressive at the quarterback position. Like, you got to do something. You got to try for something. especially in that division. So I picked the Dallas Cowboys to win that division at the beginning of the season for Dak only. We didn't know what their defense was going to be after the year that they had last year. And they've taken an incredible step up and made great moves on the defensive side of the ball in Dallas. So I don't think it's over. There's still a lot of football left to play, like I said, but I love Ron Rivera. I think he's doing a great job trying to establish some culture there in Washington, which has been just like they can't get right. Washington, that organization from the top to bottom, can't get right. And there's lots of reasons for that. And we could talk for like 3 hours about them. Yeah. But I think Ron Rivera was the right hire to try and establish some culture there. They need a franchise quarterback. And the bigger question to me is how they go from the top defense in the league to what they are now.
I mean,
this year. I mean, it's just incredible fall from grace. I don't understand it. So that is more of the question to me. We know they need a quarterback, but how the defense fell apart so quickly is mind-boggling.
We're still looking at the paper, like what is happening on the field to what is on paper. And, I think Doc Walker said it best right now. It's like so much lip service going on, but they need to get the product done on the football field. So lots of questions for Washington. And talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick, just look, it said he's going to be out even for more weeks now. So Taylor Heineke is just going to be that guy, and Washington's schedule is not getting any easier. So that defense is going to have to figure it out and figure it out fast. The next game, Joy, Patriots and Jets. I don't know if anybody was surprised by this one, but 54 points, blowout win by the Jets. But I think the bigger question now, the Jets will be without Zach Wilson for a little bit after that injury. And, for the New York Jets, Joy, I mean, what do you think this season, like, what does this do for them, right? We know it's going to be a very tough season. We've already seen how hard it is. But, is there anything that they can look forward to or a bright spot of the season for the Jets to learn from? Just not.
Look, Zach Wilson's injury is devastating, obviously. Like, you never want to see a rookie quarterback go down and miss, or you want to see anyone go down and miss time, obviously. But, what you want to see with these teams like Jacksonville or the Jets or Detroit, not really Chicago because they have their defense and it was a really weird situation with Andy Dalton. But in some ways, you want to start seeing some cultural changes. Like for the teams that are truly in a complete rebuild, Philadelphia, teams that have a new head coach, that have a young quarterback or a rookie quarterback, you want to see just a little bit of growth. You want to see something that inspires, okay, you know what? They're not winning, but they're putting together some hard fought games or the quarterback is improving. They don't have the defense right. Or we know the offensive line is terrible and they're running around too much, but you like that he's making accurate throws. They're playing really hard. Like you want to put something on this team that is building from the ground up. You can't have unrealistic expectations of these young quarterbacks and these coaches and these organizations who have taken these quarterbacks high in the draft. There's a reason they were at the top of the draft. The roster's not good. So, you look at teams like even situations with Justin Herbert. Like Justin Herbert was great last year. They weren't winning games. So you have to look at it from an objective place where, okay, they're not going to be good. They're probably not going to win games, but are they building towards something? And that's kind of the frustration with the Jets. Now, I don't think Zach Wilson's injury is his fault and everything that's happening with the Jets is his fault. Like I said, they're not a good roster. That's why they were able to take him where they took him. But you want to see some growth. Like I think Detroit is doing actually an impressive job. They're not winning. Right. But they're giving teams hell. And Dan Campbell was like, whatever, we're in LA. We're not supposed to win this game. Let's just try whatever, and he had some success and, the better team won as we expected, but they play hard and they have like some spirits. And that's what I think Kevin Stefanski is a great example of what can happen when you bring in the right person to establish some culture. The Cleveland Browns were a dumpster fire for decades. And now, obviously, they're not in a great situation now with Baker's injury and all the other injuries, but they've clearly established some culture. He's coach of the year. They have an incredible roster. Andrew Berry's put something together there, and they're a team that we have to actually take serious. And that's it's the Cleveland Browns. Look at the Cincinnati Bengals. Like when you get the right situation going, you can feel good about that, even if you're not winning games. And I just don't feel like that's happening yet with the Jets.
Yeah. I know there's still so much to learn from. Like you said, Browns, how they've turned that organization around, the Bengals, how they turned that organization around. So things can happen, you all, when you really invest and build your rosters. Not just one player can turn it around. But on the other end, Mac Jones, many are still pretty impressed by him. 300-yard game, the first one of his career. The Patriots, do you feel like they're in good hands with Mac Jones? Is it in Mac we trust, Joy?
Well, that win over the Jets, I'm not going to get too crazy about, but I do think that he went to the best situation out of all these rookie quarterbacks in New England with Bill Belichick and that offensive line and defense and coordinators. Like that's a good situation to go to if you're a rookie. But I will also say he looks good. You could certainly go there and fail, and he's not failing. Yeah. He's had the most success so far out of all the rookies, and he looks like he did in college. Like he looks poised. Yeah. He puts the ball where it needs to be. He's nothing over the top. He's going home and chilling with his puppy and his family. Like he said, he's not doing too much. And you shouldn't ask your rookie quarterback to do too much. That's the ideal situation, is you go somewhere where you can learn and develop and you don't have to do too much. They're not asking you to win shootouts. They're not asking you to throw the ball 55 times a game because you have no running game and no offensive line and, all these issues. So I've been impressed with Mac. I'm not going crazy yet, but I don't think this is a year where we should be going crazy about the Patriots. I thought they would end up being a playoff team. They obviously haven't shown that yet, but I'm not doubting Bill Belichick yet. Like they lost Tom Brady. You lost the greatest football player in the history of the sport. I'm going to give you a couple years to bounce back. Just a couple. Yeah, so I think Mac looks good.
Like Tom Brady's a hard one to bounce back from. Like you lose the greatest literally in the game, and we're seeing what Tom Brady.
Well, I don't know if we should say lose. You let Tom go. You let Tom
let him go, right? And now he's the one that got away, and now you're looking at Mac just hoping some type of shape or form can happen where your franchise can stay with the terms of greatness. But like you said, Mac, he's playing some solid football, not overjoyed, but look, he's putting it down on the football field. So right now, what the Patriots need, we have to talk about your Dolphins, Joy, that Falcons-Dolphins game. I know there's a lot going on with the Dolphins. I'm sorry to bring it up, Joy, but like just let us have it, Joy. The Dolphins. What's next? What's next for the Dolphins?
When I eventually go gray, probably like a whole section of my head will be dedicated to the Miami Dolphins. Well, look, there's so many. It's a very long, nuanced conversation because I know the history of this team so well because I've been watching them my entire life. Yeah. I think they really botched Tua's career start, at least. What's going on with Tua is not Tua's fault. I am a big advocate of starting rookie quarterbacks right away. I don't like hearing about how the offensive line is bad. I don't like hearing about how it's a big step up. I don't want to hear about how fast the game is. I don't want to hear about any of that. You have a rookie quarterback for a reason. There are rare exceptions, like the San Francisco 49ers, where you have a Super Bowl level roster.
Right.
And you have someone on that roster who took you to a Super Bowl, who you went to a Super Bowl with in Jimmy Garoppolo. And Trey Lance was very raw and hadn't played a football game in over a year. Okay, that's an outlier situation. You probably should go with Jimmy G in that spot, build up his trade value, trade him, and then give the organization to Trey Lance. Fine. But in these other situations, you've taken who is supposed to be the future of your organization. So in our business, we can only learn so much from watching someone else talk on the microphone. Like we can watch how they prep. We can, follow what their schedule is. How do they come into the building? What do they do to put together their rundowns? How do they research? All those things. But until you actually get in front of a live microphone, in front of a live audience, you're not getting reps.
You do it right. Mm-hmm.
So I understand that you want to ease them in. But this whole idea that's like, you don't want to wreck their confidence. Like, what? Yeah. What? Like making mistakes is a part of success. Making mistakes is a part of growth. Nobody's going to be perfect. And in fact, if you do have a string of too much perfect, that's going to ruin you also, because then you're just going to expect everything to always be perfect. And when it doesn't go right, when the prompter goes down, when the lights turn off in the middle of the show, when your computer stops working while you're in the middle of your notes, you don't know what to do because everything has been grooved for you. So I'm a huge advocate of starting rookie quarterbacks right away. And the Dolphins did not start Tua right away. There wasn't a clear reason why. And it was, first the conversation was, oh, well, like he's still coming off his injury. Then he should have never been drafted. If you weren't going to be ready week 1 of the NFL season because of an injury in college, you should not be drafted to be the future of the franchise. Maybe 3rd round, or you're a development project or something, but you can't go at the top of the draft to be the future of an organization if you're still injured at the quarterback position from the year before. Okay, so if he wasn't injured, he should have been playing week 1. If he was injured, you made a mistake in the draft. To me, it's one of those two. So they gave the organization to Ryan Fitzpatrick to start. They made him the starter, which had absolutely no value to the season or to the team. It didn't establish some sort of winning culture. As you can see, they are losing this year. So it didn't build anything. It didn't build any momentum. All it did was take away reps and development and time, evaluation time from Tua. So, and then when you finally put Tua in, you yanked him to have Ryan Fitzpatrick come in and save, and you didn't even make the playoffs. So what did you do? And then we come in this year, the beginning of the year, and then in August, like Tua is the guy, Tua is the guy, Tua is the guy.
Right.
Which I did not buy for 1 second. And then boom, August hits and they're in the rumors with Deshaun Watson. Okay, so Tua isn't the guy then. You're not having those conversations if you think that Tua is the guy. So I think Tua has been done a great disservice. They have never been fully confident in him from the moment he came to Miami, from the moment he was drafted. They were not all in on him. They showed that in their actions. They took his development away. He's never had any opportunity to get any kind of momentum. And maybe he's good, maybe he's not, but we don't know because it's been so choppy. How do you actually know? Now he's strung together 2 good performances in the last couple of weeks since he's been back from his injury, but it's not enough. And that's not going to work. Not in this NFL climate, not with the top quarterbacks in the league showing how valuable they are to actual wins. And that's why they're in the Deshaun Watson conversation to begin with. Now, the Deshaun Watson conversation is a whole separate thing altogether. Right. It's a very nuanced conversation. But yeah, I mean, the situation in Miami is a disaster, and it's not surprising to me at all. I saw it coming. I said it was coming. Miami fans were not happy with me for saying this was what was going to happen, but the writing was on the wall from the very beginning. It wasn't about me not liking Tua. You have to see what you have in Tua. You have to give him the time to be evaluated properly. You have that grace when you take a new quarterback, and they just didn't do it properly.
And now here we are. Joy, it's been such a joy. I can't let you go, though. Look, hopefully this is a better note for you. We've got Monday Night Football tonight. Excited about this one. Curious your thoughts. We've got the New Orleans Saints taking on the Seattle Seahawks. Who do you have winning this one?
Whew, I don't know. These are 2 teams that are just kind of in a weird space as franchises. Obviously, I was way too high on the Seahawks. I had the Seahawks and Bills in the Super Bowl coming into the season. That's not quite – my Bills pick is still alive, but – yeah, Seattle's gonna be out of it. The Russ injury is not good. The Seahawks they're in a weird space. I don't know where to evaluate them now with everything that's going on. Obviously, Russ is supposed to come back. We'll be back in time. And then the Saints, I think, are still trying to find themselves. Obviously, they're still a really well coached team and have great pieces on the defense. We know what Jameis Winston is capable of when he keeps it out of the opponent's hands. So it'll be an interesting game tonight, but they're both really in need of a good performance and are kind of at a weird space in the season and in, their story for what they're going to build into in the next couple of years.
Yeah, like you said, just 2 teams. Saints are trying to figure themselves out post Drew Brees still. We'll see what Jameis is able to do. And like you said, with Seattle, lots of questions surrounding Russell. But look, we get more Geno. So if you like Geno Smith, hey, you'll be in for a good football game. Joy, it's been such a joy. We're excited to see you Thursday Night Football. You actually have a good one. Green Bay Packers at Arizona. That should be a great one, right? The undefeated Cardinals. We've got the 6-1 Green Bay Packers. So Thursday night is going to be fun. Joy, before we let you go, any new announcements or anything that we can look forward to coming from you?
Nothing new on the horizon just yet, but you can check out Thursday Night Football. It is going to be a great game this Thursday. Packers, Cardinals. You can watch on Scouts Feed on Prime Video. Just click on the game and change your audio setting to Scouts Feed. It's me, Bucky Brooks, and Daniel Jeremiah. And you can also watch on Twitch, on twitch.tv/MoveTheSticks. And we have a fun chat going on during the game there. So you can chat with us live during the game and watch the game with us on twitch.tv/MoveTheSticks. And check out the show Saturdays, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports Radio and on the Herd weekdays from noon to 3.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Joy. I appreciate your time. Hopefully the rain stops in California because we just want greatness to continue to expand. Again, watch Joy every weekday on The Herd and check her out on Saturday and also Thursday Night Football. So basically lots more Joy Taylor in all of our lives. Thanks again so much, Joy.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. Bye, Joy.
Bye.
All right. That was such a fun one. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I feel like I could talk to Joy for hours, but this is, again, why we enjoy Joy Taylor. Appreciate you all tuning in. We'll be back Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern time with a former NFL wide receiver, Rob Carpenter, Jets, Patriots, and so many more. We're going to talk about all those great stories. So thanks again so much for tuning in. Also, check out new audio versions of this show. We just had a guest from Nike on talking about their HBCU Yard Runners campaign, and we've got 2 more audio shows coming out later this week. A special shout out to my team and my interns for their amazing work. Cannot do it without you all. And of course, I also want to thank our sponsors that make this show possible. I'll see you all on Thursday, 6 p.m. Enjoy Monday Night Football tonight. Hopefully we get a great game, and look, we'll figure out what's happening in Brooklyn with the Nets. We've got the Wizards playing there tonight. So also all my DC family fans will be looking into that game. Thanks again so much, everyone, for tuning in. And again, a special thanks to Joy Taylor for joining me here live on Listen In with KNN.
Follow Kelsey on social media at The Real K Nelson. Catch episodes of Listen In with KNN on YouTube, on air at AM 1340 and 96.9 FM Fox Sports Radio, on Facebook and Twitter, and online at KelseyNicoleNelson.com. Thank you for watching this live stream broadcast of Listen In with KNN.
Listen In with KNN on Fox Sports Radio now offers official Kelsey Nicole Nelson apparel in a variety of styles for men and women. Fashionable shirts, leggings, hats, jackets, and more. Order now and get 15% off and free shipping. Just enter promo code KNN. Get your Listen In with KNN wearables today. And check out Listen In with KNN on Fox Sports Radio with Kelsey Nicole Nelson.